Hello there guys, hope you're doing really well on this Monday, starting off your week in the best way possible. Today's video, of course, and show is going to be about one man, Thiago Silva. That emotional announcement video to confirm the news that we expected, but to hear it from himself, to see how emotional he got. And I'm sure how emotional a lot of us got listening to the words of Thiago today. The announcement that Thiago Silva is leaving Chelsea at the end of this season. I am doing my Q&A tomorrow, so if you haven't submitted a question on my community page on YouTube or via X at SonOfChelsea or Instagram, submit a question there. So the deadline's a little bit further back, but we'll get to those tomorrow. But we have to speak about the announcement and the legacy of the brilliant Thiago Silva. Before we do get into that, I want to say a massive thank you to the guys. You may have seen this on my Instagram earlier. Alloy Collectors, they sent me this brilliant Chelsea metal home shirt. Brilliant design, really thoughtful little collectible, officially licensed by the club. And stainless steel, really good quality. And it's customizable as well. I will show you. And I'll put probably the video I put on my Instagram story earlier so you can see it a little bit closer. But fully customizable. You get it. You get the shirt this year. And the cool thing is, as you probably suspect, they're going to have next season's shirt coming up soon. But you can put your favorite player on the back and put it in a really nice locker. Maybe after today's news, you want to put Thiago Silva's name there as a memory for him. And I'm really excited to put this in my studio somewhere. It'll be in shop moving forward, absolutely. And the nice thing is they sent me a few more. Basically one where you make your own, or the ready-made one, which I showed you already. So we're going to do a giveaway. So in the comments below, I want you to say which one you prefer. Maybe you want the ready-made locker where you just put the name on the back, or you want to have a go at making one yourself. Say which one you want, and then also tell me your favorite Thiago Silva moment in a Chelsea shirt. On top of all of that, rather than a giveaway, there is a discount code to use that helps myself, helps the channel, helps the podcast. Use SonOfChelsea at discount at Alloy Collectors. Link in the description box below. Link in the show notes. I promoted it on my Instagram. I'm going to promote it on my Twitter. And on top of that, I think it's quite exciting that they do other football clubs as well. And I've heard some retro Chelsea stuff coming down the line. So that is quite exciting. So thank you to Alloy Collectors for sending that. But let's get to it with Thiago Silva. So as I said, it's not surprising news. It's not news that, breaks my heart over like Thiago had to stay. Like, I was very much of the belief this was going to be his last season. I think it is right that it's his last season. But a bit like Cesar Azpilicueta, that doesn't mean there isn't emotion. That doesn't mean there isn't the memories you have with a player. And of course, for Dave last year, it was a lot longer, over a decade at Chelsea, and we saw how emotional he got. But even though it wasn't as long, you saw what it meant for Thiago. And we'll go through some of his quotes here, and then I'll give you more thoughts about the wonderful legacy of Thiago Silva at Chelsea. So he said, not just for me, but for my family too. My sons play for Chelsea, so it's a source of great pride to be a part of the Chelsea family. Literally because my sons are here. I hope they can continue their careers here at this victorious club that many players wish to be a part of. I think in everything I did here over the 4 years, I always gave my all. But unfortunately, everything has a start, a middle and an end. That doesn't mean that this is a definitive end. I hope to leave the door open so that in the near future I can return, albeit in another role. It's an indescribable love. I can only say thank you. Obviously, when I started here, it was during the pandemic, so there wasn't any fans in the stadium. But through social media, it became something very special to me. And then when the fans started coming back to the stadium and life was getting back to normal, I started to feel a lot of affection and respect for my story and my start here. And there were tears in the eyes of Silva, and I'm sure like many of you, it was hard to kind of fight back some tears of my own, because those connections you have to footballers and players, it doesn't always have to be a player who has been here literally like 10 years. It can be only a couple of years. But the impact they have can be lasting. And I think Silva has just been a remarkable presence at Chelsea Football Club in some very difficult times, especially in the latter part of his Chelsea career. But I think back to that summer of 2020 when he signed, and I was one of many. I wasn't the only one, but I was one of many who was slightly doubtful of the signing, because a player of his age at the age of 36 coming into an intense league, we've seen horror stories or moments where players at the end of their career arrive at this stage and can't perform to the highest level. The remarkable thing about Silva is it took him a matter of months, less than a year, to become one of the Premier League's best and most cherished defenders. And it just speaks to the longevity, it speaks to the quality, and it speaks to how extraordinary a player, an individual in football history he has been. And it's so magical that, sure, the best achievements for him at Chelsea came in the early years, but they still are defining achievements. The fact that he won a Champions League trophy for a player of his career across the years to be able to lift the European Cup, fully deserved. To be part of the Club World Cup winning team, to have all of those wonderful memories where, as he said, especially when fans came back into the ground, to show him that love and affection on a consistent basis. I mean, even on a side note, and I know it's become slightly a little bit more negative and controversial this year, Thiago Silva, what players, wife and family have been that connected to Chelsea and grown such a connection to fans, even in the first year. I remember Thiago Silva when she was at I think it was the Leicester game. It was like the first game at Stamford Bridge after lockdown, and she was taking pictures with fans. It just shows how much and how quickly a connection they made to this club. And I think that means a lot to supporters. And it's not just about the performances off the pitch. I think it's the character off it that has meant a lot, and why so many Chelsea fans will fondly remember Thiago Silva and the Silva family being a part of Chelsea Football Club. And as he said, he's got sons that are playing at Chelsea currently. Apparently he's taking his coaching badges currently, so it would not surprise me if he is back at Chelsea at some point, maybe, just maybe, as a head coach. But he is a special player, and I don't want this year, I think the comparisons to Azpilicueta are quite relevant here. Just because maybe in the last few months of their Chelsea career or the last season, they aren't at the highest level, you cannot underestimate the legacy and impact he leaves behind. You cannot forget what he did at his best, because I think under Frank Lampard, he brought much needed experience and quality to that defence. Of course, under Thomas Tuchel, he was a part of the Champions League winning defence. I can only imagine the impact and wisdom he has passed down to younger defenders he played with in that period of time, and the longevity he had even beyond when Tuchel was here. So this is something that, it's a legacy that is so cherished, and I think a player that goes down as one of the greatest defenders we've ever had at the club. It's just a privilege. The only shame is we never saw him earlier in his career at Stamford Bridge, but truly wonderful character. And I think Nazar Kinsella put it best, where maybe people outside of Stamford Bridge, maybe even people inside or around Stamford Bridge, maybe don't quite understand the quantity and the weight Thiago Silva's presence has had in the history of Chelsea Football Club. I do think it is the right time for him to move on. I do think we have younger defenders, the likes of Trevor Chalobah, the likes of Levi Colwill. I know they've had difficult times recently. Axel Disasi, Benoit Badiashile, and it's easy to forget Wesley Fofana, who's been injured for all of this season. There is a succession plan there. I think the big question mark has to be, and I don't want to turn this thank you to Silva and the memories we have of him as a player, and hopefully the very fond farewell he'll get next month, into negativity around, what's going on at Chelsea. But it is important that when you lose experience like that, you replace it. There has to be an understanding this summer that we need to bring in experience, because a squad that was already inexperienced and immature and young is losing another experienced player. So trying to find that will be a challenge, but it's an important challenge. And I think Silva represents, you can't always find Silva. Silva is kind of one of a kind, but he represents an idea that thinking of players beyond the age of like 28, 29, 30 as irrelevant and ones that can't bring extreme value to your squad is clearly a silly way of looking at things. It's not binary, and I think that's a very important thing when looking at how we judge players in their careers, because like many, I wasn't sure Silva would be able to reach the levels he has. When I think of my favourite moments, I think of course, the Champions League run, some of those performances against the likes of Real Madrid, against the likes of Atletico too. I think about some of the big performances, the clearance off the line against Juventus that was wonderful. The clearances off the line in finals against Liverpool. I know we didn't win those games, but it just showed you, again, the Benjamin Button of football, as Thomas Tuchel liked to say. And you felt a real privilege watching Silva. I remember almost feeling like he was wearing slippers out there, how comfortable he was, how much grace and how delicate he was at times, and just such poise for a player at his age. And again, I just think that feat of age, that feat of kind of logic at times, is something that you can never forget about Thiago as a player, and the fans have given him a lot of love and support, and I think it's absolutely granted, and he will leave with those memories. He will leave with the goals against Spurs that we'll remember as well, some of the others he scored too. And I think that's a really nice thing to end the season, and really something to remember fondly. And this message, that emotion is not... a lot of things in football now feel quite shallow at the highest level. A lot of things in football don't feel that genuine. That was genuine. That was heartfelt. That was the sign of a player and a human being who has felt genuine connection to this club. And I think it's something that really means a lot in the modern game, I think, to fans, and I'm sure to all of us. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, Thiago. It's nice that apparently he's going to be getting the captain's armband in the final game of the season. Hopefully, because I know he went off injured against Aston Villa. Hopefully, we'll see him a little bit more than that. And it isn't just, him wearing the captain's armband for a little cameo. Hopefully, he can play some part for the remaining weeks of the season, because hopefully he can put out another couple of big performances and what that could lead to for Chelsea in what has been a really difficult season. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours on Thiago in the comments below, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.